What just happened inside Windsor Castle is the moment royal experts have been waiting 25 years to talk about. William has finally done it. Driven by many years of quiet anger, he took Princess Diana's official portrait out of the dark storage room where it had been unfairly hidden and put it exactly where it should be, right next to Queen Elizabeth on the wall of the Hall of Matriarchs. Camilla did not know this was going to happen. When she saw it, she was completely shocked. She rushed straight to Charles and told him to have it taken down at once. What Charles did next turned the whole palace upside down. The pain that never went away. There is a portrait of Princess Diana that most people have never seen closely, and the story of where that painting has been kept for the last 25 years will make you feel sick. The portrait was painted during one of the most famous times in Diana's public life. She was at the top of everything. Her beauty, her kindness, and the way she made normal people feel noticed and loved in a way no royal had ever done before. People who were there when Diana first saw the finished portrait say she stood in front of it for a long time without saying anything. It was the kind of silence that comes when something shows exactly who you are. That portrait was meant to hang in the Hall of Matriarchs at Windsor Castle. This is the most important ceremonial place in the entire royal home, a wall saved only for the most important women in the history of the British monarchy. Diana never saw it placed there. She died before it could happen. And after she died, the portrait was quietly taken out of consideration, wrapped up, and put into palace storage where it stayed in the dark for more than 20 years. When Diana died in August 1997, the world showed its sadness openly and loudly. Inside the palace, something else was going on. Something quieter and much more unpleasant. Within hours of Diana's death being confirmed, the first calls made from inside the palace were not about sadness. Royal insiders say that one of the very first worries was whether Diana had any crown jewelry with her in Paris. The rush to take back property started before the British people had even been told their princess had died. While all of that was happening, Camilla was already taking action. Camilla had spent years as the hidden woman. She was the one Charles visited in secret while he was still married to Diana, the one Diana privately called the Rottweiler because she clearly understood what this woman was doing to her marriage. Now Diana was gone, and Camilla began moving through the palace rooms that Diana once called home. She did not just move in. She erased things. Diana had kept fresh flowers in the palace rooms where she lived, flowers she had personally chosen. Camilla ordered them to be taken away and burned, not replaced. Burned completely. The bedroom where Diana had slept, the room where she had held her sons and cried alone at night and written her private thoughts, Camilla ordered that room to be locked forever. She did not want to sleep there, but she also made sure no one else ever would. She wanted it closed off like it was something shameful. Diana's personal belongings were packed into boxes and moved away. Her image slowly started disappearing from the most important ceremonial places inside the royal homes, and the Hall of Matriarchs at Windsor, that special wall of honor, never received Diana's portrait at all. For more than 20 years, the most loved royal woman of the modern time was missing from her own family's wall simply because one woman felt uncomfortable seeing her there. William was only 15 years old when he walked behind his mother's coffin through the streets of London. He walked in silence, wearing a suit, in front of the entire world, with his face showing no emotion. He was a child who already knew that his father had been in a relationship with another woman for years. Diana had sat him down and told him herself. She said there were 3 people in their marriage. She said that was why the family had broken apart. His younger brother Harry found out in a different way. He was watching a television discussion about the monarchy with Diana when Camilla's name appeared on the screen. He turned to his mother and asked who that was. Diana had to explain it to her youngest son right there in that moment, Liv, without any warning or preparation. But the most painful thing William would ever learn about what was done to his mother came from a letter. In 1995, 2 years before she died, Diana wrote a note to her lawyer, Lord Mishkin. In that note, she said that she believed Charles was planning to have her killed in a fake car accident, with brake failure and a serious head injury, so that he would be free to move on. She wrote that her husband was planning an accident in her car. She wrote that Camilla was only a distraction and that she was being used by the man in every possible way. 2 years after writing those words, Diana died in a car crash inside a tunnel in Paris. That note was given to the police after her death, but it stayed untouched for 6 years before it finally reached Scotland Yard. Charles was later questioned about it in private at St. James's Palace. William and Harry did not know the full details of that letter for many years. When William finally learned what his mother had written during the last 2 years of her life, and then looked at what had been done to her memory inside the palace after she died, something inside him became completely hard. It never became soft again. He watched Camilla walk through the rooms where his mother had once lived. He watched her take down portraits of his mother from the walls. He watched the Hall of Matriarchs remain empty where Diana's place should have been. He kept his face calm in public, but inside, the anger was slowly destroying him. At the age of 16, he finally could not hold it in anymore. He pulled aside someone he trusted and said everything he had been holding inside. He said that Camilla had taken hold of his father and never let go for even a moment. He said that was why his mother had died, because Diana had been pushed out of her own family, had her protection taken away, and was left alone with no one around her, until she ended up completely alone and without protection in a tunnel in Paris in the middle of the night. A 16-year-old boy said those words about the woman who was now living in his mother's home, and he carried every single one of those thoughts with him for the next 25 years. There was one more person in this family who carried a painful wound connected to Camilla that went even deeper than William's, and it had started long before Diana ever became part of the story. That person was Princess Anne. Before Camilla married Andrew Parker Bowles, he had been in a serious romantic relationship with Anne. They were close enough that people were already talking about marriage. The royal family stopped it because Andrew was Catholic, and Anne, as a senior member of the Church of England, was not allowed to marry him. She stepped away because she had no choice. Soon after that, Camilla stepped in, and Andrew proposed to her, and sat in the church at their wedding in 1973 and watched it happen. The woman who took the man and was meant to marry later spent many years as the secret partner who helped destroy her brother's marriage, broke Diana's heart into pieces, and eventually walked into Buckingham Palace wearing a crown. Royal writer Penny Junor reported that Camilla felt very uneasy around and for many years, that Anne's cold way of acting toward her made her very nervous, and that the problems from their shared past were never solved and never would be. After the coronation in 2023, Anne is said to have faced Camilla at a private lunch, looked straight at her, and said clearly, "You are not the queen. You are only the king's wife." And has reportedly never bowed to Camilla. It is said that she personally asked Queen Elizabeth for permission to be free from that rule, and the Queen allowed it. And saw Diana being erased. She saw the portrait disappear. She saw the walls of the Hall of Matriarchs stay empty for 20 years, and she carried all of that pain with her. Both Anne and William wanted one thing, to place Diana where she truly belonged, in the Hall of Matriarchs. Then the night finally came when the waiting ended. William had spent many years planning this move, holding careful talks with art experts about how portraits should be placed. He studied old records about every portrait placement going back many years. He made sure every official rule was followed exactly so that once it was done, no one in the world could challenge it or undo it. He had been playing a quiet 20-year game inside his own family, and this was his final step. The night before it happened, William called Anne. The call was short. Both of them had been waiting a very long time for this moment, and they both understood it clearly. "I cannot wait to see the look on her face. It is long overdue. Diana deserves to come home," Anne said. "She comes home tomorrow," William replied. That was all. The call ended. Camilla had no idea this had already been set in motion. She had no idea what was waiting for her the next morning. For 25 years, she believed she had won. She was about to learn how wrong that belief was. The night Diana came home, William's team arranged for Camilla to attend an event outside London that day. It was planned carefully to get her out of the palace and keep her away until everything was finished and could not be undone. While she was gone, the Hall of Matriarchs at Windsor was closed to everyone except a small group of trusted staff. These were people who had been carefully chosen, people who understood the importance of what they were about to do. Nothing was written in the official royal schedule. No announcement was prepared for the press. Everything was happening in complete silence. In the early evening, the portrait of Princess Diana was brought into the Hall of Matriarchs. It had been kept wrapped in protective covering in palace storage for more than 20 years. Castle in the room where it had always been meant to stay. The frame was made ready. The position was carefully measured and checked. And within 90 minutes of the portrait being brought into that gallery, Diana's face was placed on the wall. She was put directly next to the late Queen Elizabeth. Two women standing side by side, one who ruled for 70 years, and one who never got the chance to rule at all. Exactly where they should have been together from the very start. The room became very quiet after everything was finished. Many people who were there said that no one spoke for a moment. They just stood still and looked at it. Then Princess Anne, who had walked into that room carrying 50 years of pain, anger, and deeply personal memories, said something softly, almost under her breath. Staff nearby heard her clearly. She said that Diana belongs here. She said she always did. It was simply the truth, spoken out loud in a room that had stayed silent about it for 25 years. Diana had been the most loved royal of her entire generation. She had filled huge crowds, lined streets with people, and made the whole world cry at her funeral in a way that had never happened before and has not happened since. And yet her own family had kept her portrait locked away in a storage room for more than 20 years because one woman felt threatened by her presence. That woman was asleep across London that night. She had no idea what had just taken place. She did not know that the portrait was now hanging on the wall. There is something important to understand about how afraid Camilla had always been of this moment. When Camilla first met William face to face at Clarence House, royal writer Christopher Anderson reported that she was shaking. She needed a drink of vodka to calm herself before she entered the room. She was physically trembling at the thought of meeting a teenage boy. Critics believe this was because she knew exactly what she had done to his mother. She knew that he knew, and she had no way to defend herself to him. She had been afraid of William since he was 16 years old. But she had never imagined he would do something like this. That the boy who had walked silently behind his mother's coffin had spent the next 25 years quietly and carefully working toward one single night where he would bring his mother back to the wall she had always deserved. That evening, Camilla came back from her event outside London. She went to sleep in the palace she had spent 25 years changing, reshaping, and clearing of another woman's presence. She slept, and in the Hall of Matriarchs, Diana's portrait looked out from beside the Queen. The next morning, Camilla would wake up and walk straight into the worst day she had faced in many years. She just did not know it yet. Camilla's worst day. Camilla returned to Windsor the next morning, expecting everything to be normal. She walked in. She heard the news, and her reaction was instant and physical. She did not stay calm. She did not take time to think quietly. She became completely stiff with anger. She ordered that the portrait be taken down immediately. She demanded an urgent meeting with William. She insisted that Charles step in and support her. She demanded a full explanation from every staff member who had taken part in placing the portrait. Every single one of those demands was refused. Every one of them. For the first time in her entire time as a royal, Camilla had no power at all inside her own home. The woman who had spent 25 years slowly reshaping the palace around herself had just learned that the palace could be changed back just as easily. And she had no power to stop it. But the refusal of her demands was not the worst part of that morning. The worst part came when she turned to her husband. Charles had spent many years fighting for Camilla. He had fought against the system, the public, the media, and even his own sons to make space for her in the royal family. For 25 years, he had been the one person she could always depend on to stand up for her. Now she stood in front of him, embarrassed and furious, waiting for him to fix the situation. He looked at her, and he said nothing. He allowed his son's decision to stay. He allowed his sister's actions to go unchallenged. He did not make a single phone call. He did not raise a single complaint. He simply sat there and allowed Diana's portrait to remain on that wall. People inside the palace say that in that one moment, Camilla realized something she had never had to face before. That Charles had made his choice. He had chosen the institution. He had chosen his son. He had chosen, at last, to honor the woman he had spent his life treating wrongly. What makes Charles' silence even more painful is the full meaning of what it truly shows. This is a man who, according to reports, recently asked William in private not to push Camilla out after he dies. He is a man who understands better than anyone how deep William's anger goes and has spent years trying to keep it under control. People close to the family have confirmed that William still carries real and unresolved anger toward Camilla for what she did to his mother. One insider said clearly that the way Camilla betrayed Diana has not been forgotten by either of her sons, and that William has simply been more controlled than Harry in hiding those feelings. Charles knows this. He has always known this. And yet when the moment came, he stayed silent. This was not just a husband failing to stand up for his wife. This was a king accepting that the reckoning he could not stop forever had finally come. Just when Camilla thought things could not get worse, Princess Anne walked into the room. She came in person. Face to face, she looked at the woman who had burned Diana's flowers, locked her bedroom, watched her portrait disappear from the walls for 20 years, and she said 5 simple words. It is what Diana deserved. Camilla stood there and heard those words from the one woman she had never been able to win over, never been able to scare, and never been able to make bow to her. What followed was not just a bad morning. It was the start of a full and lasting change in Camilla's place inside the royal family. She was quietly taken off upcoming public events. Royal causes that Diana had once built and supported were being brought back under Catherine's office. Charities that Diana had given her heart to were being placed back into importance in William's official work. The royal family's official messages mentioned Diana's name more in the 2 weeks after the portrait was placed than they had in the 2 years before. This was a clear sign, strong and official, and impossible to undo, that the balance of power had changed and was not going to return to how it was. The new royal order. William has carried deep and real anger toward Camilla for his entire adult life. One insider said clearly that the way Camilla betrayed Diana has not been forgotten by William or Harry. William has simply been more controlled than his brother in how he shows it. Harry said everything openly in his 2023 book. He confirmed clearly that both he and William begged their father not to marry Camilla. Both of them did. They held their father's hands and pleaded with him not to go ahead with it. Both brothers called her a wicked stepmother. Both called her a villain. Harry chose to speak out loudly in public. William chose a different path. He chose patience. He chose to use the royal system itself as his tool. He waited until he had the power to act in the right way, and then he made his move. Sources have also confirmed that Charles has privately asked William not to push Camilla aside after he is gone. He knows how William feels. He knows that when William becomes king, every part of Camilla's public and private role will be looked at again, changed, and decided completely by a man who has never forgotten what she did to his mother. Diana's causes are coming back. The charities she built with real care and personal love are being raised up again under Catherine's name and William's work. Diana's name is now being spoken in official palace messages with a level of respect and attention that has not been seen since before she died. The Hall of Matriarchs at Windsor now has Diana's portrait on its wall, right next to Queen Elizabeth. The two women who shaped the emotional heart of the modern British monarchy now stand together at last, in the place where they always should have been. William was 15 years old when he walked behind his mother's coffin through the streets of London. That day, he made a promise to himself. And then he waited. He prepared. He built the legal and royal foundation so carefully and so fully that no one could challenge it once it was done. He brought in the one person in the family with the authority to make it happen and make it stay. And then, on one quiet evening, while Camilla slept across London without knowing anything, William brought his mother back into the room she had always been meant to be in. Diana's portrait is now on that wall, and it is not coming down anytime soon. Diana would be very proud of the man her son has become.